Singapore. First, I'll tell you a little bit about the track, which is quite a unique circuit. It's a relatively recent track. Been there a few years now. It's a street track, pretty much in downtown Singapore. Beautiful scenery. It's quite demanding. It's a bit like I would put it like 2 laps of Monaco together, basically, which is very low speed. It's a lot of curves. It was really bumpy the first time we went there, really extremely bumpy. They've improved that. Now it's less of a problem. They've also been improving some of the curves, which were a big problem. If most people will remember some of the crashes, but because of cars going really aggressive over the curves. And of course, it's a night event, so this is makes it quite special, because obviously the lighting system is quite powerful. So it looks almost like daylight, but not quite. So really, I think it's a really special place. Most people like it. It's very demanding for the drivers. The lap is very long and it's very low speed, so each lap takes a long time, which means that the race almost takes the full 2 hours. So physically for the drivers is very demanding. They prepare a lot for these kind of tracks. Then in terms of setup, being a street track, we pretty much go towards kind of a street curve riding setup. So mechanically the car is really soft. It needs to ride very well all the curves and go over the bumps. So it needs a lot of mechanical grip, because also there's a lot of low speed sections. Downforce, similar to Monaco. You have to put everything you have. Is very low efficiency track, so you can put lots of downforce. Track penalty is very low. Therefore also engine influence is not very big. The other critical point as well are the brakes. Being a low speed tracks with a lot of corners, the drivers are on the brakes all the time, so the brake energy is very high, and because of the low speed, cooling is a challenge. You've seen in the past that many teams had a lot of problems with the brakes, brake failures, and their brakes are always running really hot. There's many areas where the drivers have to take the curves very hard. There's one bit at the far end of the track where there's like a triple curves. That's very interesting, because obviously the curve riding, the drivers have to go very aggressive with the curves, and sometimes if the setup's not right, the driver cannot do it, and you lose lap time. And also, it's also from a driving point of view, is very interesting, because that's a place where a lot of drivers lose concentration, make mistakes, and just have a big crash into the wall. Other areas that are very important are the braking areas. It's always very difficult because the car is bouncing all over, so getting the braking stability right is quite tricky. I would say those are the main points. Well, brake stability is basically during the brake is as the word says, stability. The car normally has the tendency of becoming unstable under braking because of the large deceleration that a Formula 1 car can have, or most cars can have. Basically, there's a load transfer to the front of the car, so the rear becomes light, and therefore any disturbance or perturbation from the road or laterally will make the rear, let's say, lose its path. So the car can suddenly start to spin, for example, which is an unstable condition for the car. So this is what you don't want. So what we do basically is we have to adjust the brake balance, which is the distribution of braking forces between the front and the rear axle. What you want is always to make the rear stable, so not to use too much the rear brakes, but at the same time you want to maximize the total capacity of the car. So make sure you use all the grip to decelerate the car. So that's why brake balance is so important, and we have to adjust it depending on the conditions. During an event, the track evolves, the tire usage changes, so there will be occasions where also talking about tire usage, tire age, for example, when the tires start to drop, then you have less grip. And if you lose more rear grip than front, then you have to adjust the brake balance. And what we do basically is we keep adjusting the brake balance of the driver, because this is something that the driver can do by himself from inside the cockpit, is adjust this brake bias, which changes the distribution of forces, brake forces between front and rear. So we do that constantly during the weekend, between runs, during a session, or through the race specifically. So the driver does feel the braking stability for sure, and he's reacting to that. But also in the telemetry on the data, we always monitor this and keep advising the driver to adjust the system as is needed. So basically this is a brake pedal assembly, and just referring to, we're talking about braking stability and brake balance. Basically this is where the mechanism lies, where the driver can adjust the brake bias. And basically this is a brake pedal, and inside the pedal we have a balance bar, which is basically, as the name says, balances the forces between front and rear. These two extensions are basically where the master cylinders are connected, the front and the rear. And the master cylinder is basically the cylinder creates the pressure for the braking circuit for the front and rear lines. And here we have a mechanism that changes the sort of the pivot point where the force is applied between the two master cylinders. And basically there's a linkage connected to a lever in the cockpit that the driver actuates, and is changing the brake balance to go forward or backwards, depending on what balance is required. He will do this as many times as maybe several times per lap, depending. For some corners he might want a more rearward balance or more forward for the corners, and then through the race, as well as the balance changes of the car, he will slowly change the brake balance to the front or to the rear, depending on conditions. So it's quite a complex system.
Juan Pablo Ramirez, race engineer for Heikki Kovalainen.